What's up, weirdos? Shadetree Surgeon here with another long-term motorcycle review. As I said in my last review, I don't normally do this kind of video, although that statement is becoming less and less true with this video. I usually avoid reviews because I'm not normally on a new motorcycle anywhere near long enough to form a real opinion on it. If you can write an honest review of a bike after a 10-mile test ride, congrats! You are much more skilled than I am. Even after a couple thousand miles on the Heritage Classic, I wouldn't exactly say I'm doing a review so much as I'm just giving my honest opinion. So if you're curious about what some fat, dumb redneck from the swamps of Florida thinks about the Harley Davidson Heritage Classic, then you've come to the right place. As always, let's get the boring stuff out of the way first. This is a Harley Davidson Heritage Classic on the new Softail frame. It has a 107 cubic inch air-cooled Milwaukee 8 V twin that makes around 77 horsepower and 100 foot-pounds of torque. 6-speed transmission, weighs about 700 pounds, blah blah blah. If I get into rake and trail and suspension travel, I'm gonna put myself to sleep here. If you want facts and figures and spec sheets just repeated to you, you can get it from another video. It's a Softail with a 107. Chances are, if you're here, you're already pretty familiar with this platform. This is my first experience spending an extended period of time on the Milwaukee 8 107, as my previous long-term loaner was a Road King Special with a 114. I never felt like the 107 was lacking power. It honestly didn't feel slower than the 114. It just felt like it had to work harder to do the same things the 114 did. The 114 feels effortlessly powerful and confidence-inspiring, where the 107 feels slightly wrung out in comparison. I really think that this is partially due to exhaust sound. Exhaust can gain you a couple horsepower sometimes, but its main effect is psychological. A freer flowing exhaust can make your engine sound uncorked, less stressed. The Road King Special I had came with factory exhaust that I personally thought sounded great, whereas this Heritage Classic sounds about as sexy as a hairdryer under full throttle. A bit of a moot point, since most people will quickly ditch the stock pipes, but I thought it was worth noting. So what makes a Heritage a Heritage? Wide glide, fog lights, fenders, mixing bowl, floorboards, windshield, bags, and whatever this plastic acne is. Seriously, what is this crap? It's like Harley Davidson was trying to reinvent studs for a new generation by making them plastic and flat instead of metal and round. Very future, much modern, so wow. I guess I just don't get it because this bike is literally called the Heritage. It's supposed to be a throwback, a modern classic, sort of a nod to big twin touring bikes of the 1950s. It's supposed to have a vintage look, and updating it like this is going to age about as well as Crystal Pepsi.
I think the idea that it's not caramel colored and it's clear makes it seem like it's a lighter drink.
You look at it, you have to look twice. It's like, wow, that's a color in there. I want to try that.
Crystal is certainly not a flash in the pan. It's a brand that people look for, it's a brand they ask for, and they're buying it again and again.
The future? It's crystal clear.
And don't even get me started on how glaringly out of place this JDM wannabe LED headlight looks. It doesn't look nice, even though I'm sure it's a very expensive unit. It looks like someone tacked some cheap eBay parts onto an old bike. It's like a high school kid who inherits his dad's OBS F-150 for his first car. But instead of appreciating the solidly built vehicle from an era when trucks were still trucks and not thinly disguised soccer mom mobiles, he orders some Altezza taillights from China, installs some poorly wired underglow, and tries to fit in with the rich kids who got Subaru BRZs for their birthday. That's what these headlights look like. They make this bike look like a classic vehicle that's been ruined by a teenager's desperate attempt to fit in. When I look at these headlights and these strangely updated studs on this motorcycle, all I feel is a father's disappointment. I digress. Style is subjective, and this is just one man's opinion. The windshield could not be in a worse place for my height. I'm 6'1", and any speed above 55 creates helmet buffeting so bad that it gives me a splitting headache after about an hour or so. It's like sticking your head in a paint mixer. The floorboards are amazing, and I actually vastly prefer their ergonomics over the Road King's floorboards, especially the brake pedal. To me, the rear brakes on the Heritage have a better feel than the Road Kings do, even though it has a lower grade caliper, simply because of the way your foot engages the brake pedal. That's how it felt to me anyway. The suspension feels soft and vague and not very confidence-inspiring in turns, even though honestly, it really did handle fine. If you've never ridden a wide glide with a big front tire on the highway, you're in for a treat. Rain grooves, potholes, and uneven lanes, this thing just steamrolls over all of it. My daily driver is an FXR with a 39mm narrow glide, and the front tire on that bike follows grooves on the highway like a slot car racer. The mixing bowl is also perplexing. I guess it's a throwback to 50s dress-up parts meant to hide the hub from view? It's doubly confusing because Harley decided to go all Tomorrowland on the studs and the headlight, but still left us with a single front disc. And I've never really felt like the brakes weren't enough, but if I wanted to see modern concessions made on a classically styled motorcycle, it would definitely be in the braking department. I complained about the LED dash on my Road King feeling like a cheap digital watch. Well, the Heritage somehow manages to be worse. It reminds me of head units in the 90s. You remember the ones that used to have those blue LED dolphin graphics? It just feels dated. Unfortunately, not dated from the same era as the rest of the bike styling. The bar style fuel gauge is much more accurate than the analog gas cap gauge on the Road King, but exponentially less elegant. And since the false gas cap on this bike is identical to the real one, I mistakenly twisted it right off the tank. The stock seat is exceptionally unattractive while also managing to be wildly uncomfortable. Usually the uglier the seat, the more comfy it is, but apparently they're all about shattering stereotypes over at Harley. And finally, the bags, one of the main selling points of the Heritage, and let me tell you, they are hot, steaming garbage. I'm sure there's worse bags out there, but they're at the flea market with a Made in China sticker on them. There is no excuse for how absolutely god-awful these bags are. I could go on and on about how they look, which is terrible in my opinion, but that's subjective. And there's more than enough objective material to go over here. I do enjoy how they open. The button feels sturdy and is satisfying to press, as a good button should be. Unfortunately, that's about where my praise stops. The top of the bag gives the impression that they'll be quite large, but they're not. You can barely fit a 12-pack of beer in them, but that's not even the unexcusable part. They leak. I live in Florida, so daily showers are pretty common here, and even after a light rain, I'll find some water in these bags, and after a heavy rain, the bottom will sometimes be filled. This loaner is a used bike, and judging from the surface rust, has lived most of its life outside. I don't know if anyone else has this problem, but the kickstand side bag leaks so frequently that the strap holding the top on is actually covered in mildew. I'm sure there's a fix out there usually is for Harley stuff, but for these to come from the factory like this is really unacceptable, especially when they're one of the key features of the motorcycle. So, what do I think of the Heritage as a whole? I didn't hate the motorcycle. I thought it felt a bit soft and wallowy compared to other Softails I've ridden, but it's supposed to put comfort over performance by its nature. I had a blast riding it around, and despite their leaks, the bags always proved useful, although I avoided using the left one due to the smell. Overall, I think it's a great motorcycle, but I don't think it's worth the sum of its parts. This bike is expensive. The Heritage Classic comes in at $19,000 brand new. Let that sink in. $19,000 for this motorcycle. In comparison, you could get an Electroglide Standard with hard bags that don't leak for exactly the same price, or you could get a Road King for $500 more. Both vastly superior motorcycles and a way better value for the money, in my opinion anyway. I just don't get where the price comes from. The Softail Standard, which is essentially almost the exact same bike as this Heritage, comes in at just over 13 grand. So where the hell did Harley Davidson spend almost $6,000 more on this motorcycle? I just don't see it. Bags, a windshield, and floorboards. You're telling me that bags, a windshield, and floorboards cost $6,000. Sure, it's got different fenders and a different gas tank, a different front end, but it's not like the Softail Standards comes without front forks or a gas tank. Even if the Heritage fenders, tank, and forks cost Harley Davidson a bit more to manufacture, I guarantee the amount is almost negligible. So I'm only left to assume that Harley Davidson really is asking us to pay $6,000 more for bags, a windshield, and floorboards. That is insane. If I wanted a bike like the Heritage, I'd purchase the Softail Standard, put Leather Pro bags on it, a windshield, and source some used factory floorboards on eBay, and still have over $4,000 to spend on that motorcycle. And for $4 grand, I could make a hell of a bike. In my opinion, the Heritage should command maybe a $2,000 premium over a base model at maximum. And honestly, the only reason to buy one would be because you absolutely loved the styling. Even if that were the case, I'd personally probably opt for a Softail Deluxe over the Heritage, because the only extra parts that I wouldn't replace with superior aftermarket products would be the floorboards. A lot of the things I had problems with on the Heritage are purely subjective. After all, these are just my opinions, and I have plenty of friends who absolutely loved the Heritage. It's not a bad motorcycle by any means, it's just not the one that I would personally choose. As always, huge thanks to Bert's Barracuda Harley Davidson. They're good people and loan me these bikes with the absolute freedom to do or say whatever I want on them. Taking into account my track record as a foul-mouthed mountain troll, I'd say that's pretty awesome. Most companies and manufacturers have zero interest in working with me because I refuse to hold my tongue. So if you're in the Central Florida area, check out Bert's Harley Davidson and tell them Shadetree sent you. They'll treat you right. So just to completely dispel this here at the end, do I think you've made a bad purchase if you own a Heritage? Absolutely not. I have friends who own them and love them, and plenty of people who I let ride this bike instantly fell in love with it. And even though it comes in at the same price as a Road King or an Electric Glide Standard, bikes I personally prefer, the scales don't lie. The Heritage weighs over 100 pounds less than either of those bikes. For a big guy like myself, I really don't notice that 100 pounds, but that can be a huge difference for a smaller person. And I will say that the Heritage with a 114 gives me little old lady from Pasadena level sleeper vibes. There's always something cool about riding a bike that looks old but goes super fast. The Heritage is certainly a fine motorcycle. It's just not for me. I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to this dumb Florida hillbilly wax poetic about motorcycles. Leave me a comment down below and let me know how you like this video format, because it's not my usual style. If you'd like to see even more ridiculous Florida man motorcycle adventures, hit that subscribe button. I upload every Wednesday and Sunday. Special shout out to my man Dave Mayer. Hope you have an awesome birthday. Looking forward to swinging by the chat room in Fort Worth for a beer with you and Felicia. Till next time, y'all, keep it weird.